Aloha, captains. Welcome to another episode of Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain Lundin, where we dive into the vast opportunities in the maritime world and we dive even deeper to the challenges of ocean's economy. With me, I have a brother and homeboy. But before I introduce him, I just want to remind you that we're about to enter a journey of these uncharted fields, and I hope that we can sail together. So set your sails, grab your life jackets, and it's about to go down. Hello, Captain. Welcome on board Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain. My brother.
This one.
Clement in the house.
Yes.
Through and through.
Yes.
Let me just say, this is a friend of mine. I was in yachting and boating, and I think I couldn't have brought a better person to unpack this topic for us. He's come all the way from Cape Town, and I'm very appreciative to have this conversation. Brace yourself. There's going to be a lot of love because he is my home boy. Feast on.
Sure.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Boating and yachting. I know you.
Sure.
I know about you.
Sure.
I know Lindani. But I want you to tell my audience, who is Lindani, what happened to this boy? Where's this love of the ocean came from? I mean, we both come from the township.
Sure.
You didn't have a swimming pool at your house,
No.
man. I know this.
No,
So the love for the ocean, when did it start? Maybe if you can unpack how it got you to now working at the waterfront, V&A waterfront, a representation of notes.
Sure.
Why?
My grandmother.
Mm.
It starts with my grandmother. My grandmother was umtandazi, a healer, but not in the sense there's Zangoma, but umtandazi like umzayo in washo. So my mother, she had me quite young. So I got raised by my grandmother for the first 10 years of my life. And it was a very special 10 years because I was being raised by a healer who used prayer and water. And she would have people lining up a Kaya Clement coming to get healing. And she was famous because she was a healer who had this little toddler next to her. So every time I tell us in about and doing her thing, I'd be mimicking her, and people would be laughing and stuff. And so, but she instilled that like reverence of water, and she always used to say to me, sometimes I'm hambanaye, siyemfuleni ezothandazela abantu. Everything she did with water. Everything. Whereas you want to meat and all of that. Yeah, she was water and spices. Sometimes I forget turmeric.
Okay.
Sometimes I forget ginger.
Yes.
But that was and I think my fascination Namanzi started there, watching her and watching her at Tatabanda and always kind of speaking to me about the power of water, how Nkulunkulu resides there, how we can kind of imbue amanzi with our faith and positivity for it to, because basically what I was watching was like I was watching an exchange of faith, because she would take lamanzi now, like I'm saying, sometimes of or ash. And she would pray on it, and somebody has a stomach ache or whatever it is, and then Nalona Futi has to believe with Lamadz as well.
Yes.
But really the thing is a man.
It's powerful.
So as a young person, I was looking at this thing, I was thinking, wow, hey, Amans are powerful. So, but you could sense, but there was also irreverence that was like also like you should fear amanzi, you should fear ulwandle, yes, Nkulunkulu resides there and stuff. So I think that was my first real contact and love with amanzi. But it didn't build into anything, right? Until much later in my life, I'm like maybe 29 years old, I think, and I'm in Johannesburg, and I'm in a different field. I'm doing marketing. I'm in telecommunication space, working with my father and stuff.
I see you there. Actually.
And actually, I did a bit of flying. So I went to Grand Central Airport, and I was kind of like trying to revive my aviation career, and I went to go write my aero exam, because you write these exams in Grand Central. So I was taking a Gautrain. Because I lived in Ilovo, so I was taking the Gautrain from Rosebank going to Midrand, like every day, going to do my exams. And I think on the last day I was writing my air law exam, and I was on the train, and I'm coming back, and I meet this white middle-aged gentleman, on the train. So I had a book, aviation book, in my hand, and so we start talking. We're sitting across each other on the train, and we start talking about airplanes and pilots, and diversity.
I can imagine you started that.
Yeah, because he's saying, "Oh, what do you think about, white pilots, male specifically, not being taken into SAA anymore?" And we started to talk about the numbers and stuff. And I told him, "No, I trained with some of the SAA guys in Port Alfred." And that's what we're talking. And then towards the end of our trip, he says to me, "Do you know anything about sailing and boats and yachts?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. What is sailing and boats and yachts?" I'm 29 years old.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time I was pretty exposed. I was lucky and privileged enough in my life to have been born to parents that were professionals. They were lawyers. So my parents did relatively well.
Yes.
I don't think I have a rags to riches story. I'm not that guy.
Yes.
My father wasn't a security guard, and then so I was kind of upper middle class kid. I got exposed to so much.
Yes.
I traveled the world when I was quite young and all of it. So I'm 29 years old. I'm in Johannesburg. I'm thinking I'm very exposed.
Yes.
But I didn't know anything about boats, as exposed as I was. And he told me about sailing boats, and he said there's a friend of his, and his son is an airline pilot, and he also sails yachts and delivers these sailing yachts around the world.
Oh.
And I was just like fascinated. What is this saying?
Shades of blue, sky and the ocean, all in one person.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow.
Okay.
This guy's hectic,
Yeah.
So he gives me his card, this guy, and he says, when you get home, drop me a mail, send me and I'll send you a link to a sailing school. And I get home for sure, and I drop him a mail, and he sends me a link to the sailing school. I check it out, and the school was in Cape Town. This is 2012, somewhere there. And the school was in Cape Town, and I said to myself, "Shit, man, I'm here like finishing this aviation thing here, but I gotta check this thing out. I gotta check, what is this thing?
That is so sick.
This thing is cool."
Because it was promising, you were almost done, but you're already curious of the next.
And I'm in Joburg. You can't get more concrete than
that.
I'm in Joburg. I remember when I was telling my friends about it. They're like, water, Joburg, come on.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did it. I'm adventurous like that. So I went, and I went to Cape Town, met this guy called Alex Cousins. He's passed away.
Yes.
Great man who taught me how to sail.
Yes, I remember you.
And Alex was shocked to see me. I was the only black guy in the school at that time, and he said to me, "So you really came?" I said, "Yeah, no, I was serious." So then we went to Langebaan, Mykonos side, which is an hour from Cape Town, which is where they do their training. And we got on the boat. It was my first time on a sailing boat. We went out on the water, and they switched the engines off. They put up the sails on the boat, and it was moving this thing without any engine.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like fascinated, and it's like healing. Genamanzi, like water's on it. And And I remember I had this sensation. It wasn't fear. It was
Really?
excitement.
Okay,
I was
because I was just about to ask.
Yeah, it wasn't-
Granny's
I
upbringing
had, exactly.
on respecting the water.
It
Now
was
suddenly you hear.
I just had this feeling of excitement.
Okay.
And he gave me, the wheel. This guy added cousin. He said, "Ndani."
On the first
first day,
you got the wheel.
yeah, and he said, "Hold it," and he told me what to
That
do.
trust though.
And it was like when we came back to land, I remember I called my dad and I said, "Listen, man, I'm 29 years old and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but this is what I should have done.
This is what it is.
This is what I should have done since I was like a little boy."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
And my dad was like, "What?" I said, "No, I'm serious. I'm not coming back to Joburg." He's like, "What?" I said, No, I'm not coming back. I'm
Sure.
finishing this thing. And when I finish this thing, I'm getting into it.
Yeah.
So at like 29, I started like a completely new career. Like almost going back to varsity. At 29 years, I thought I was mad. But the love
Yes.
that I had for this thing was so much that I just thought, I have to try it out. If I don't,
And
I'm gonna regret it.
you're gonna, and I think you would have. You walked it and role modeled it. You made it visible for every single black child.
Yeah.
And to me, when you speak of sailing, I don't know. I don't even see what people see. I think Lindani, because I'm exposed to you. I know that there's diversity in the space.
Yeah.
But maybe for someone who would imagine $1 billion, elite, bubbly, caviar,
For sure.
and that's yachting and boating, and that's the perception
That's
we
the
have.
perception.
Suddenly there's a Lindan.
Sure.
And I know that you and I will sit on the floor and have a matombo.
Yeah, sure.
How's that image? Is it changing? Is it a myth that we've been sold, or is it a lie that we've been sold?
Yeah.
What's your perspective, having been in the industry, having been part of, having penetrated fully the industry?
Sure.
What's your perception? Is it what it is that we see?
Yeah.
Or does it have potential to be what we would wish to see? What's your view in this?
And most sailors like to say the best boat to have is the boat you don't own. So it's somebody else's boat, right? So the owners of boats, whether it be super yachts or whether it be like big sailing boats, racing boats and stuff, yes, those people are wealthy people.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
so
yes.
there's no doubt about that, because they're expensive machinery, but owners can't sail boats on their own. So that's the great part. That if you have a big racing boat, chances are it's going to need 16, 15, 18, sometimes 20 sailors to sail it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's the beauty about sailing, that, when I was sailing at the Royal Cape Yacht Club, you get to meet people on like different levels of life. There'll be a billionaire who owns the boat, and then there'll be a doctor, there'll be a plumber, there'll be a carpenter,
Yes.
there'll be a guy who's just like working at McDonald's or wherever, but he's really good on a boat, and they need him and they want him. So, like, when you're on a boat, I like to say it's the great equalizer. We're all equal here, because, it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor out there or you're a lawyer out there. When you get on a boat and there's 15 or 14 of us or 6 of us and we have a job to do, we have to rely on each other.
Beautiful.
Okay, and we're all equal on the boat, because it's just about how good you can do your job, right? So as much as that perception is there, that boats are expensive and it's an expensive sport and all of that, but it's not expensive to gain entry into it. There are many facets of this thing. There's many ways that you can skin this cat, where you can be able to gain entry into the arena, right? Because the boat itself and who buys it, that's the final product, but actually, it still needs to be sailed. There's so many things that happen after that. And that's a crew of people. You've even got onshore crew people, who do stuff. I spent a good portion of my time in the past 10 years on boats, sailing them and stuff, going to different parts of the world and all of that. But now I spend most of my time on land.
Yes.
I don't even remember when was the last time
I know.
I was on a boat. Right?
I know.
So which shows you
Yeah.
the dynamism of the industry, that you can move from the water to
the
land.
land.
And,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
So
Yeah.
there's many different avenues.
I feel exactly the same in
Yeah.
that I'm now having to adjust on land.
Yeah.
And adjusting on land is not cool.
But it's good.
For me, I just feel that once you connected with the ocean,
Yeah.
it's just that connection that stays there.
But the thing is, Lonely, the thing is, and that's how I make peace with my kind of morphing into back to land.
Yes.
Right? Being on water is great. And there's many other sailors of color that are on water that are even better than me. Some of them are sailing in New Zealand.
Yes.
Some of them are sailing in different parts of the world. But what I realized very quickly was some of us have a skill set to be able to be bridges from land to water.
Beautiful.
And we need to take up that responsibility.
Yes.
To say we can't all be at sea.
Yes.
Because some of us have a skill set to go and tell people on land what's going on and have the language and the articulation to be able to drive them, which is what you're doing.
That's it.
So you've chosen the perfect path for you.
Yes.
Because if we had decided, no, I want to just, be on dredging ships and do my thing, then where would we have this unlocking of the ocean's economy? Who would do that?
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So you need to take your part and be okay with it because that's what you show with tune, right?
Yes.
Right? So somebody set you there and said, check this thing out.
Okay.
Check what it's about.
Come back.
Okay, come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you put it so beautifully. I'm also, though, just keen to know from your perspective, and you humbly share about how a middle white man opened the doors for you, planted a seed, you walked the walk, you were the only black students.
Sure. And I must stress this point, so many white men opened the door for me.
I want to get there because I know nowadays, and I don't want to sound old.
Sure.
There's that spirit of just raising a hand.
Sure.
That I truly, truly still believe in that. Yeah. Captain, when you're doing a podcast, I want to be there. I'll mop the floors.
Yeah.
I'll wipe the cameras.
Yeah.
I'll wipe the lenses. Yeah. I'll,
Yeah.
And I know that whoever can offer that is someone who's serious about their job, to raise their hand and say, even if I don't get anything in return.
Sure.
Do you think that spirit matters a lot? Do you think that in your career particularly, it opened more doors for you? Because someone's got to say, this is Lindani.
Yeah.
There's not much Lindanis in this yacht. So how will I trust this boy to go behind the wheel of this super yacht? And, So explain to me.
I think it's bravery. That's important. I mean, I'll tell you a story. When a guy who's done a lot for me in this industry in opening doors, Bruce Tedder, when we met the first time, we didn't know each other, and I came to him and I was looking for work. I just finished, with my yacht master studies and everything. And he said to me, if you want to get into this industry, I think maybe you should do a crossing. So get a boat and, take the boat from here to America, from Cape Town to America. And when you come out the other side, then you come back and you tell me if this thing is for you.
Oh.
So for sure enough, I got the boat. We were supposed to go. We were going to, I think, Miami or South Florida somewhere, and got on the boat. And we didn't make it far. We actually made it to an island called Desson Island, and we crashed over there and we got rescued by the NSRI.
Shut up.
For real.
You did not say.
That was my first trip, and I thought I was gonna die on the first trip. And so we got rescued, and we went to land, and obviously my family was calling, oh my God, he's at my grandmother, I went to and immediately, I didn't even waste time. I said to my parents, no, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to look for another boat and I'm going to go. And I found a boat and I did a crossing. And this time everything went okay. Got to America. And I remember calling my dad in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. in the middle of the Atlantic, literally between Africa and South America. And I was calling him on a sat phone. And I said, I'm in the middle of the ocean. I'm 2,000 nautical miles away from anything.
Yes.
I've never had an experience like this in my life. I feel like I'm in space.
Wow.
And this is what I want to do. My
Yeah.
life is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I did a few of those trips. And the last trip I did, which was I took a boat from, I think it was from Annapolis in the States, and I was bringing it down to the Caribbean. But before that, actually, I took a boat from the south of France, which is the small town called La Sable-d'Olonne, and we're taking a boat from there to the Caribbean. And when I got to the south of France, because we took a flight, some German guy asked me to come and help him out with this thing. I was in Joburg at the time. Flew me over to Paris, got to Paris, and then we drove down to the south of France to where the boat was. And when I got there, we were preparing the boat, getting ready to leave for the Caribbean in the south of France. And this guy, his name is Olivier. He's a French guy. And Olivier basically is the manager of a manufacturer called Lagoon Catamarans, which is a French manufacturer.
Yes.
And Bruce, who I haven't seen in 3 years, happens to be a distributor in South Africa of Lagoon Catamarans. So they know each other, they're friends. And Olivier sees me, this black guy, and he immediately thinks, a black guy here in France on a boat must be South African.
Okay.
So he comes to me, he's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. Are you South African? I'm like, yeah, I'm South African. And he does the thing that everybody does when they see black people in the other side of the world. Do you know Bruce in South Africa? I'm like, But luckily this time I did.
Yes.
I did know Bruce.
Yes.
And we knew each other. Briefly we'd met. I told him, no, I met him, briefly in 2012. And he said, I must get into this thing. But I haven't. He said, Bruce is coming here in 2 days. Please leave me your contact. Because I was leaving the following day. Please leave me your contact. That guy connected Bruce and I together again after 3 years.
Sure.
When I met Bruce, when I came back to Cape Town, Bruce was completely convinced that I was the guy. Because he couldn't believe that I met this guy 3 years ago. I told him to go away. The next thing, he's in the south of France somewhere and he's meeting someone that I know.
Yeah.
Determination.
Determination.
Bruce saw the determination that I didn't need. All I needed was an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I would grab it. And then I stayed and I spent a few, like a year or two in Cape Verde. And in Cape Verde, when I was there, I was working on a boat and doing chartering, and I was a captain of a sailing boat. And there was lots of South Africans that were passing there on their way to Europe to do deliveries. And they were blown away because every time they came to the bar, and the ladies, the Cape Verdean girls at the bar would say, if they're South African, would say, there's a South African guy, black guy who lives here. And they're like, no, what are you talking? I says, no, seriously. And they quote the point. And then on the boat, I just hear someone knocking. And when I come out, these white South African guys, because they were all white South African guys in sailing, they'd be so shocked. Like, oh, there's this black guy randomly living here in Cape Town. And it was about that. Yes. It was about me trying to find my way because no one was opening doors for me. I was like a pioneer in that space, and no one was opening doors for me. But I was looking for a gap everywhere, and it was people talking about me in different spaces. Yes. By the time I come back to Cape Town and kind of start to make my name, those people who were meeting me in Cape Verde, they already told people that there's this black guy who lives in Cape Verde and he's saying so fucking weird. So bloody weird.
It's so interesting, Lindani, because I feel that it says a lot about determination and also just about your network being your net worth. Network will open doors for you. And these people know people.
Of course.
These people know people. So shine the shoe.
Oh, yeah.
Shine the shoe. So
volunteer.
If they shine the shoe.
Yeah.
But I think that also just coming back to an entrepreneur sitting, listening to you saying, yo, this guy has walked the walk. So how come this boating and yachting is still only better in the Western Cape?
Of course.
And I keep trying to explain that, the weather may be good in Durban vibes. Just maybe unpack that in saying, why is it so successful, well executed? quite elite, so to speak, in the Western Cape than the rest of the region.
No, sure. I mean, I would kind of attribute it to one thing. I'll give you an example. There's this boat that's doing very well currently, internationally. It's called the Cape 31.
Right.
This Cape 31 is a sailing boat, not that big, and it's a racing boat, really. And it was built in Cape Town by a guy who passed away, I think 2-3 years ago, Hoover. And before the boat got any success internationally, which it has now, because now they can't even keep up with how many boats are being bought overseas. The boat, I think about 10 of them were built, and the boats were racing in Cape Town. So like top sailors and racing guys would race the boats in Cape Town. And they would post videos internationally, you know, like on YouTube or whatever, of this racing that was happening. And people started to pay attention to this boat. And then the next thing that they did is they took, I think, 2 or 1 of the boats, and they went and they entered a competition, I think in Hong Kong, somewhere overseas, South African sailors.
Okay.
And they raced there and the boat won. Okay. So what I'm trying to get at is there's a strong sailing culture in the Western Cape.
Okay.
Right? Very strong.
Yes.
Every Wednesday, they're on the water sailing. Whether there's rain, wind, doesn't matter. They're on the water sailing. So because of that strong sailing culture at Royal Cape Yacht Club, at different clubs around in the Western Cape, what comes out of that is that then there's people who start to become innovative.
Yes.
In pushing. How far can you push a boat?
Yes.
What if you do this? What if you do that? Because they're racing with each other all the time. And then guys who are boat builders are thinking, oh, maybe we could build something like this that would make us go faster. Because they're constantly engaged in that sport. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you can attribute it to.
Right.
The amount of competitive sailing that you find in Cape Town, I think, has a direct spillover into the boating industry.
The success of
the success of it.
Cape.
Exactly.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What problem are you trying to solve?
Me, personally, not being the only one at the table. That's very boring, first of all. And secondly, it's lonely. I think that's what I keep saying. I keep saying that to when I was at Royal Cape sitting in a board meeting or anywhere I am, I say, oh, it's so lonely to be a Black person alone in a room like this. And we're just talking. And the worst thing is sometimes you find yourselves in rooms where you're talking about diversity and inclusion or transformation, and there's white people all over the room, and you're the only one who's Black there. Firstly, your voice gets drowned out.
Yes.
But secondly, and maybe the most important thing, I think to myself, is this room, the way it looks, correct? If we were discussing, you know, like female issues or gender issues that affect females, and it was just like 10 men and 1 woman, is that ratio okay? You know what I mean? So as much as I can, I'm trying my best in any way that I can to bring people on board, to bring young people on board. And sailing, it's not even about having the right talk. You know, I talk about this thing sometimes of proximity to whiteness. You as a Black person succeed because of your proximity to whiteness. Now, I'm under no illusion that I've done as well as I have in the industry that I've been because I went to white schools. Because from primary school, I went to white schools. I had white friends. I dated white girls. I did a lot of so-called white things. And I can swim really well.
Yeah, you can swim really well, actually.
I've got a bit of a twirl. Sometimes when I'm talking, my English sounds so posh.
Never left you, friend.
You get what I'm trying to say? So that's proximity to whiteness. When a white person comes and sits down next to me, the moment they spark a conversation, they find similarity. We can talk about London. We can talk about Croatia. Now we can talk about both. So we have similarity. And as a result, they find it more easier to let me in than to let in Mbona sekuthiwa Monty, isiZulu sakhe strong, isingisi sakhe ashayi kahle, he's never traveled anywhere, but maybe he's even more talented or even more intelligent than you and I. You understand? But you'll never give him that opportunity.
Yes.
So maybe to answer your question, I'll put it this way, and this is something I've always wanted to say.
No.
My aim is, I want to see the worst of us, of Black people. So, and depending on whatever scale you're using, whatever criteria you're using, but I want to see, they talk about Black excellence all the time.
Yeah.
Black excellence, Black excellence.
Yeah.
I want to see the most average Black person be able to get opportunity in those spaces.
Period.
And when that can happen, when the most average Black person can get opportunity in white spaces, then I think my job is done.
Period.
Yeah.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know that's what you stand for.
Sure.
I've seen you walk the walk.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
With every conversation that I have with you.
Yeah.
I never want to hang up.
Yeah.
Because I think we're driving the same or similar motive. That said, there's a boy that's been meaning to meet you.
For yeah.
And I told them that I'm bringing industry captains, and so I sent them a list of names, and this guy is quite passionate. He thinks he was born a sailor.
Nice.
And because of this, I just thought that because you're coming, Global Maritime Youth being my foundation, I know you have your own foundation also, I feel that this opportunity to say, as much as you can't hold his hand, but he can be a part of your life one way or the other, just maybe demystifying what may be confusing in your life right now and you wish to ask him something. I never want to impose mentorship.
Sure.
Because I strongly believe it needs to happen organically.
For sure.
But this boy has left you a message, and I just hope that you can be able to answer to his dilemma.
Sure.
Sawona Mr. Linda Mkunu, igama lami ngusabele ngwahadebe Sibongo. I'm doing my third year in nautical studies at DUT. Ngafisa ukwazi ukuthi, like, since you are enrolled in boating and yachting, like, for my students, afisa mhlambe ukuba to do this part of job oyenzayo now, ukuthi, like, what could be done, like, ukuthi akwazi ukuba in the knowledge about umsebenzi lo wenzayo, or else, like, ukuthi how could you help a student to improve if he, like, to overcome if he, I mean, based on ukusailor, for instance, sailing. Some students are afraid of ukusailor, like me. I'm afraid, but I'm a sailor. I try. So, how, like, what can I do to improve to overcome my fears and all that, since ise kuyinto enkulu kangaka? Ngiyabonga.
Yes. Wow. Beautiful message. Yeah. I'll answer with a joke that my father and I is a recurring joke.
It's a recurring joke.
It's a recurring joke that we have. Sometimes when some of his friends ask Uti, "How, man, why don't then choose izinto eziseceleni kanje wafuna ukufly amabhanoyi and then futhi waphinda futhi wafuna ukuba usolwandle and then ubaba mayesethi, I know history repeats itself. Bazobuya belungu bazosicolonize. So uma bebuya futhi siyo sibahlangana emanzini sihlangana nabo emoyeni. Bengakafiki sibabuza ukuthi singanisiza ngani.
Ngapha nangapha.
You know what I mean? So,
but that's beautiful though.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. That is solid backup.
So by that, where am I going? It's a trauma, it's in an amount, we put trauma because Amanzi brought a lot of trauma to us.
Yeah, true.
On the continent as a whole. We've had slavery, we've had colonization.
Yeah.
So I think somewhere along that history, there was a trauma, an internal trauma about Amanzi. And for me, I think we need to go and reclaim the space.
Yes.
And kind of like redefine anew what our relationship is with water. So to Sabelo, what I would say is the more exposure, the better. And it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to start with Ulwaj, you know. There's inland waterways, dams, and all of these things. So you can start with small boats, which we call dinghies. That you can just even, I think it made my dam, and another dam, or they have all these things. So you can go to a sailing club. For instance, the South African sailing has, I think, like 28 sailing clubs around the country. And they've got youth programs, development programs, and you can go and just get on the boat, you know, get on the boat. I always say, whether and you become a captain, or and you end up managing a harbor at the VNA, or you do oceanography, or you do hydrography, or you become a captain on a tugboat, whatever. At the end of the day, it needs to start with water.
Yes.
It has to.
Yeah.
And you have to just kind of expose yourself little by little.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be every day, but little by little, expose yourself to the entity. And, you know, like, there's even law, but there's maritime law.
Yeah.
And hardly anybody talks about that. I think that's another person you should talk to. There's a lady who's in the States who teaches at Massachusetts. Oh, you know her, of
Dr.
course.
Dlamini.
Of course.
I mean, Dr. Ndlovu. Yes, Portia.
Portia, yes. There's that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we don't speak enough about the many kind of fields within our industry that are there.
And that is why there's Unlocking Oceans Economy with Captain Londi.
You don't know how important
I feel that we're doing so many events, and I think that we're all working in silos to some degree. And I think that's why, for me, it's important to have this centralized platform where information can be well imparted and captains of industry can come and put their hearts on the table.
For sure.
It challenges me to say, when we cultivate pure love for the ocean, and that's what Global Maritime Youth stands for, cultivating the pure love for the ocean. And I think that I know for a fact that you and I and Portia and Zenzi and Claire, Bruce, can be able to help each and every one of these youth members that just are confused and need someone to say, you're doing just fine.
So don't forget that you're a bridge.
A bridge. Oh, that I take, truly. Thank you for that. Thank you, my friend. You and I can talk all day, and I don't want this to end.
Of course.
So there you have it, captains. Setting sails all aboard. We want to ensure that absolutely no one is left behind. And I think that bringing Lindani here has painted it visible. He's made it visible. So I know for a fact that I continue to learn from Lindani. You can learn so much from him. Google him, follow him, ask questions. I've brought him here for you, but now you know that he exists and he is making it visible. Do the right things. Keep this ship afloat. Like, share, comment. Lindan, I have something for you. I've never bought you anything.
Okay, thank you.
I've never bought you anything.
Not that I remember.
Enjoyed while it lasts.
Okay.
Not happening. Well, Christmas came early, actually.
Yeah.
This is for you. Thanks for coming
I'm sure
over.
my daughter's going to take it from me when I get
Luckily, it's just meant for you.
Okay.
Just you.
Okay.
But thank you. Thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for agreeing to come all the way. This guy comes from drips. Like, just 2 days ago, he was all dripped up. And he says, I said, if he has to die, then he must die too. After this. Because we need him for this.
No, for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, my brother. If you have one last thing to say to anyone who still think that this industry is not for us, what would you say to them?
I would say, dare yourself. Dare to dream. Dare to dream. Dare yourself. Go out there and see what are the possibilities. In fact, I would say what my father always said to me when I was young. He used to say, Lindan, and I'll say this in Zulu because it's my best. He used to say to me, Lindan, mawubona belungu bebaningi endaweni bebaningi begcwele lapha ilafuna ushole khona.
Yes!
Let's do it.
Actually. Yes.
I would say that.
Thank
the
you.
more white the space is,
Yeah.
the more
The
necessary
more color
the more
then
necessary
you are.
The more necessary.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.